All right. Happy Friday. We are going to talk about intuitive eating today. And you get to see me in my hot mess mom form because this is just real life. And no matter what's happening, I really feel the need to talk to people about what I've learned, especially women, moms that are in my situation dealing with the chaos of motherhood, and to teach you a little bit about ditching diet culture. Okay, so we're going to jump right into it. I have a PowerPoint. I'm not fancy, but I just help the. I think it very clearly lays out the intuitive eating strategies. I had some misconceptions about it, so let's just dive in. Here we go. All right, so what is intuitive eating? This is going to be broken into 4 parts. I want you to learn this over time. What you have to know is that since this isn't a diet, there's no race, there's no time limit, there's no deadline. We're just learning, and you're learning, but a lot of what you're going to do is the unlearning. And if you've ever heard that term, it can apply to anything. False beliefs you had about yourself, limitations you had. This intuitive eating is returning to what we knew as kids. Okay, so I want to back up and tell you a little story about when I think I was a freshman in college, and I was sitting in a large auditorium, probably 300 people, and I sat in the top backed left portion because I wanted one of those left-handed seats, the ones that came out and were only on the left-hand aisle, and I'm left-handed. So I wanted one of those seats, and I sat all the way up there because I was a little late to class. And it was the first nutrition class I've ever taken. And the professor was a woman, probably in her late 40s, early 50s. And, she was a registered dietitian. And during one of our very first classes, she stood at the front of the classroom and the auditorium, and she said, beware of all the diets out there, right? This was, to give you some reference, this was back in 2002, 2003. And she warned against restricting, against obsessing about food culture. She warned against talking about food groups to cut out. She said, if there's ever a diet that somebody suggests you go on to lose weight or whatever the reason is, be careful if it's one that tells you to cut out a food group. It's totally different if you have a true known medical allergy or intolerance to it. But because of that, I have always taken every health approach with a grain of salt. And I knew that if I didn't feel good about the way I was treating myself, I wouldn't feel at peace. Okay, so dieting, maybe you remember like your mom going on a diet or a family member of yours going on a diet, something of that nature, and them talking about how they're going to have to give something up, or how they're going to feel crappy for 60 days or whatever it is, and then they can return to real life. In fact, I have one Facebook friend who's somewhat anonymous, but she has never been in these groups, but she says almost every single January, this is the time that I go on a diet again. This is her post. And this is the time that I stop enjoying things and stop enjoying foods. And I don't know about you, but that just doesn't jive with me. I have 4 small children. They're 2, 6, 9, and almost 11. And my kids, I've had to teach them about healthy eating, but not restriction. And my 2-year-old, my 6-year-old, they eat until they're full, and then they're done. They leave the table and they get up and they are done. And in fact, my 2-year-old, who doesn't have a lot of words, he says, full, and he jumps out of the table, off of his chair. So sometimes in our culture, often more than not, I think we get so focused on our images and so focused on what we are told. This is the unlearning part. We're told we need to look like. Okay. And what we're told we need to, like, this body type is healthy, while totally denying the fact that we all have different genetic makeups, while we all have, different needs. For example, I have high caloric needs because I get 18,000 steps a day chasing after my kids doing remote school. But I didn't used to always need to eat that way, because um, I used to like do a desk job and work as a secretary. So different things in different times of my life. But I loved this idea. Sometimes we get so caught up in having a certain body type that we forget we are souls. We forget we are spouses, friends, volunteers, and you can insert your reason. All the many roles that we play, we think of ourselves as just a body. And we rely so much on what we think of ourselves or what other people think of us. And we put people who lose weight, like I said, this is not popular, on a certain pedestal. But in doing so, we forget our worth. Now, it doesn't matter what your weight is, what your body size is, your worth will never change. No matter what the scale says, it will never change. And I know you're rolling your eyes probably and thinking, well, yeah, but like, I do need, certain lower body weights are associated with healthier, maybe, a healthier, like less risk of cardiovascular disease, something like that. We're going to get to that. Okay. This is a totally different way of thinking and approaching food in a way where you can make peace with food. So hang in there. Like I said, it's the unlearning. Okay. So intuitive eating focuses primarily on biological hunger. That's what I'm talking about with my kids. They see food, they enjoy it, they like it, but they experience the food, and they, like last night I made salmon and vegetables, and I bought some focaccia bread from Trader Joe's, and I think we had a fruit salad. And my 9-year-old was like, oh my gosh, this bread is so amazing. This is delicious. But like I noticed on his plate when I went to do the dishes that he left half the piece of bread there, and he had a little bit of the salmon and a tiny bit of vegetables, and then he was done. He didn't feel the need to eat all of the food. With intuitive eating, we honor our hunger, we respect when we're full. This takes some learning and unlearning, and enjoy the pleasure of eating. Anybody who tells me that I have to give up like a food or sweets for a year, I'm sorry, I just don't trust them. Our bodies are smarter than that. We can learn to regulate it. It's garbage, and it's unrealistic. I always look at healthy eating as a way to like improve. When you think of the diet culture, that is a short-term, quick fix, restrictive, shaming exercise, and it just doesn't feel good to me. So I think that's probably why you're here, because you want to learn a little bit more about this. Okay, so picture on the left, dieter doesn't eat pizza at the office party, but wants to, is thinking about it, right? It's like the more you think about it, the more you want it, and then obsess over it. And then they go home and they overeat at dinner and try to satisfy the craving. Picture 2, wants a slice of pizza at the office party and eats it. Goes home to have a light dinner because they are less hungry. They're an intuitive eater. They enjoyed the party. They enjoyed the food. It wasn't this big obsession with food and what am I eating next and all this stuff. All right, so here are the 10 principles of intuitive eating we're going to be learning in the next 4 weeks of this. Number 1, to reject the diet mentality. I want you to actually, like, you're allowed to get a little angry, and people who say you should never eat ice cream again, or oh, this is my least favorite one lately, people who call certain foods good or bad. Have you heard this? Like, corn is bad, bread is bad. I know you're probably thinking, what the heck? That's exactly what I've been told. And doesn't that make people heavy or whatever. Or, what's another one I've heard? Anyway, food doesn't have a moral. It doesn't have a moral compass. Certain things aren't good or bad. They just are. And all the foods exist. And I'm going to teach you how to make peace with all of them and achieve health. And it's so interesting because I've coached for 8 years now, and I have found myself, like, I started with wanting to be skinny. Then I realized, no, I just actually want to be strong and I want to make peace with food. And then I found that I kind of reverted back to the diet mentality because that's what all my coach friends were doing. And then I thought, I'm still inside authentically, this doesn't feel good to me. I know that my worth does not change regardless of my weight. I know that my body is not deformed or needs to be rescued after having a baby. I know that now. And these principles just feel good to me. Okay, number 2, honor your hunger. Don't go hungry. Please don't do that. It doesn't last. It doesn't feel good. Number 3, make peace with food. Challenge the food police. That's that good and bad. People telling you can't eat this. Fortunately, I grew up in a great positive household where my mom never critiqued what I ate. Literally never. When I was a teenager and I was on dance team and I was doing a lot of, active stuff, I would eat like second helpings or whatever at dinner. And she never, ever critiqued me. I didn't even know this was such a thing until my best friend was telling me that her mom was critiquing what she ate. Why? I was an intuitive eater back then. I ate what I needed. I was done when I was full. I learned how to eat in the diet mentality in my 20s. I did. Respect your fullness. Discover satisfaction with food. Okay. So we're going to talk about that more later, but how it feels to eat a satisfying meal versus something you've been told to eat. Honor your feelings, respect your body, move your body, honor your health. Okay. Those are 10 principles. Okay. So people think intuitive eating will look like the picture on the left, right? Lots of sugar, because sugar is bad. Sugar is the devil. Oh my gosh. If I hear that again, I'm going to die. Okay. There's nothing wrong with sugar in moderation. Please. What eating intuitively actually looks like on the right. Okay. Healthy moderation in all things. Okay. So stage 1. I said this was going to be short and I'm sticking to it because I really want to respect your time. Stage 1, readiness, hitting diet rock bottom. Okay. And this is from the book where I learned all about this. See this? See, this book was actually written in the 90s when all of these diets were coming out, Atkins, South Beach diet, all this stuff. And it was written by 2 registered dietitians who were already in their practice, practicing independently, but had some of the same principles. And they were tired of seeing helping put their patients on diets and then having their patients, clients come back over and over and over again because they would fall off and then feel guilty and then binge eat and then come back and say, I can't do this. I don't have as much self-control as someone else. And then they would counsel them on something else. And then they would go on a diet again, and around and around and around and around we go. Okay. So this quote is from their book. This is where most people begin, hitting diet rock bottom. You are painfully aware that every attempt to lose weight has ended in failure. You are tired of valuing each day based on whether the scale is up or down a pound or 2. You think and worry about food all the time. If this is where you are, this is where I encourage you to go next. I encourage you to learn about intuitive eating, learn about healthy, lifelong eating, and I'm going to walk you through the steps these next few weeks. Okay. So our first step of awareness in venturing into intuitive eating is at your next meal. Okay, so where I live, it's 9 o'clock in the morning. That'll be lunch for me. I want you to stop and take a second, check in with yourself at least 3 times. Okay. Some people call these timeouts. I don't really like that because it seems punitive, but I want you to stop and think how you're feeling. And it says during the pre-meal in this portion, take a note of your hunger level. How hungry are you? What food you're about to eat, how the food looks. You're not always going to have to do this because you're going to unlearn the diet habits and you are going to intuitively eat where you're not thinking about this all the time. It's a different way of thinking. How the food looks, the atmosphere you're in, etc. Simply be present and aware. At lunch, simply be present and aware. Okay? And then during your meal, notice, what does it taste like? Do you actually enjoy what you're eating? Or is it just like, How has your hunger and fullness level changed during the meal? I've read that it takes 15 minutes to feel satiated, like the trigger in the brain that is able to communicate with the stomach and knows if you're getting enough fuel. It takes 15 minutes. And I think that's why they say don't rush through your meals. As a mom, that's hilarious. Don't rush through your meal. All my meals except for dinner are eaten standing up. Right? It's just chaos. So how much more food will satisfy you mid-meal? Okay. Requires some thoughtfulness. Post-meal, ask yourself, are you full? Are you still hungry? Are you satisfied? Are you just like stuffed? How did it taste? Did you enjoy what you ate the whole time, or did you switch to autopilot and just start shoveling it in? How many times have I done this? As you do this exercise, I want you to do so without judgment. You are not a dumb person because, whatever reason, but so much of the training has nothing to do with food, the intuitive eating training, and everything that's going on in between your ears, all your thoughts. Okay. Next, I have homework for you. I want you to start listening. It doesn't have to be this podcast, any intuitive eating podcast. I want you to be learning and unlearning all of these diet mentality behaviors we've been told. Okay. And this book is a very, very, very fast read. If you think about if you were to, which you're going to, I know you will, you're going to really soak in these principles and really do the learning and unlearning. And if you were to learn to eat when you're hungry, enjoy your food, enjoy your whatever it is, ice cream, peanut butter cups, guilt-free, you're not going to want to binge. So here's what I've seen with some of my clients and from personal experience in my own life. You're told so much from diet culture that you can't have something, or ice cream's going to make you fat, or all these gross things that the very thought of not being able to have it makes you want to have it more and more. The more you think about it, the more you want it. And then when it's in your presence, you overeat it or you binge eat. And then you feel disgusting. And then you're thrown into this awful loop because you were taught to act this way. Okay. Not because you became like this, but because you were taught that you don't have self-control. What's wrong with you? Okay. And then you feel disappointed. But the very way to change is to simply learn to move forward and to not think of food as having bad or good values. I want you to enjoy your treats and to enjoy everything that you eat. And interestingly enough, in a way that feels very counterintuitive, that is the healthiest way to approach lifelong healthy eating, because it's all about balance. It's all about moderation. And you will actually find that the more you do it, the more your body knows what to do. It will self-regulate. I like crave veggies now. Like I never used to do that at the beginning. I just ate them because I knew they were good for me and I didn't really want to, but but I also eat what I want, and I sit with my feelings. I am far from perfect and I am still working on all these principles right alongside you. But I got to tell you, this is really, really freeing, really freeing. And if we could get away from this image centric culture where we are literally teaching our kids that who they are, and like their very being and worth depends on a number on the scale and depends on how they look in a certain item of clothing. If we could get away from that, gosh, things would be so much better. So much better. And you know what? We would be so much healthier up here and here. So love you guys. Thanks for checking in and learning and joining me on this. Send me any messages you have. You can email me, text me, DM me. Hope you have a great, great day. Love you tons.